let's start unpacking some of it. Well, folks, first of all, we're talking to Shad Olson. He has spent years in the TV and radio industry, in the secular area, and in the mainstream area for the longest. He is a conservative. He makes Rush Limbaugh shy away. He is he is a Christian. He is a believer. He's a good friend and a brother of mine for many, many years. But he also is an author. He's written several really, really cool books. You got to check those out. But Shad Olson, still involved, deeply involved politically and doing some political consulting, and I understand some more media's in his future very, very soon. So, Shad, you can tell us anything you want us to know about what's going on in your life, but I wanted the people to know who you were, because when you and I start talking, we're going to be speaking as though we know exactly what we're talking about.
Well, we try to put on a good front at the very least. And so I guess that's in the age of podcasts and independent media, it helps sometimes if you can give people some kind of sense of your bona fides and veritas before you launch into it. But yeah, I know you wanted to talk about the situation that's happening with Paul Manafort.
Yeah.
And
let's give our audience just a little bit of backstory in case they're not keeping up with this, because this is pretty fascinating.
Well, Paul Manafort, for those who have been unaware, I guess, of the etymology of this process, he was brought into the Trump campaign, and is somebody who has deep roots, as John Podesta does on the leftist side. Paul Manafort is basically the Republican version of John Podesta. Mm-hmm. And there were those of us, and you were one of them, Carl, who when Donald Trump made the decision to bring Paul Manafort on with his skill set, prior to the convention, Paul Manafort, if nothing else, is a mercenary when it comes to herding delegates and getting people. He's very good at delegate floor strategy, and he's worked so many conventions. He knows exactly what he's doing in that term. And so there was some necessity that Donald Trump needed his expertise to win a floor fight that looked like it was going to be an effort by the establishment GOP, as they were all along. They were trying to defraud the GOP nomination in 2016. Paul Manafort comes on board, and what do you know? The strategy, unbeknownst to us then, Barack Obama and the deep state and Hillary Clinton and Fusion One GPS, they were working their little heads thither, building this kabuki theater Russian collusion narrative so that they could launch it against Donald Trump, delegitimize him not only as a candidate, but in fact litigate and cast aspersion on the entirety of his administration, as they've done since the moment that he became an actual political quantity and was indeed elected and then sworn in as President of the United States. Paul Manafort was the first target of this because there were enough skeletons in his closet. Somebody who's made his living on K Street, that means he's been a career lobbyist. He's somebody who's been just inside the heart of the establishment, the mainstream, and, there are pretty good chances that there was some way that they were going to be able to lump him into some kind of financial or process crime, and by osmosis and by conflation, as you rightly say, Carl, this is a conflationary case where they're using this to dirty the reputation and to delegitimize and place a lot of public relations incursion on the presidency of Donald Trump without there being a shred of any kind of culpability in the Trump administration for the things that were the original premise of that investigation, which, of course, was the quote-unquote Russian collusion narrative.
Yes.
And that in a nutshell, that's where we are.
And that was a brilliant nutshell. And by the way, you know, Shad, I know enough of your integrity and your foundational beliefs that I think I can speak for you here. But of course, if I say anything differently, feel free to correct that. And, you and I are good friends. It won't hurt my feelings. But the bottom line is that, look, when it came down between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, of course, I mean, it's Donald Trump all the way. Neither you nor I think that Donald Trump is an angel from heaven or the savior of the world. We've never said that, and we know he's a politician. He's a guy. He's a frail. Not frail is not the word. Oh gosh, my words have escaped me. But anyway, he's a human being, and so he
is an imperfect. I think, Carl, what you're saying, he's an imperfect vessel that I believe God himself has allowed to come into a position of power and is anointed, maybe not spiritually, but for such a time as this, given somebody with courage and backbone and spine to literally stare down those and to face down with those who have as their goal the destruction of the Republic of the United States. And it was going to be Donald Trump, or it was going to be lights out for the American Republic. You agree?
Yes, I do. No doubt about it. And that's brilliantly stated. And so the point being is that, look, I've said from the beginning, and I know that you have, if you haven't said it publicly, you've certainly said it in the company of people you trust, that if it were to turn out that Donald Trump literally and truly and deeply colluded with any foreign government to sway the national election, to pervert and to subvert the election, the presidential election in the United States, then I would want him out of office, as much as I enjoy some of the things he's doing right now. I mean, my foremost desire is to see this constitutional republic protected. Now, my foremost desire is to advance the kingdom of Jesus. But I mean, other than that, to protect this constitutional republic. But here's the thing, and you just said it. So here we are, almost 2 years into this investigation, and brother, if they had found something on him day one, they would have indicted him day one. We're 2 years into it, and nothing but conflation in the fake media and deep state. And now Paul Manafort comes and does this plea deal, and the mainstream media is going just absolutely frenetic over this thing and conflating the two issues.
Well, and Carl, and you and I have both been talking about this. We both, I would assume, have been writing about this. I've written about it considerably in various places and publications. And let's be very clear. I want your audience, if you haven't turned up your radio before now, turn it up and listen very clearly to what it is that I'm about to say. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump is guilty of one thing and one thing only. He is guilty of having been elected to the presidency of the United States.
Yes.
He is guilty of defeating Hillary Clinton, who was the chosen handmaiden at the right hand of Satan to destroy the Republic of the United States, and to further ensconce the powers of the New World Order and the globalist agenda in tearing down America as the last roadblock to tyrannical, what we read about in the book of Revelation, the rise of the one-world technocratic superstate that is going to be the end of freedom for humankind. And that is as simply as I can state it. Donald Trump's guilty of nothing except getting elected, defeating the establishment, and beating back the liberal agenda that is a very loosely cloaked, and I would say that they have uncloaked fully in their desire for a communist one-world government around the world, and that includes the enslavement of America under a totalitarian regime.
Yes.
And I believe that's their aim, and Donald Trump's guilty of derailing, at least for the time being, derailing those plans, undoing a lot of the policy work, both on a national and international level, that was going to be able to roll that into place, and being a thorn in the side of everybody, including a John Brennan, who was director of the CIA, despite being a communist and a Muslim sympathizer at the very least, if not a Muslim convert, as some have alleged. These are the kind of people that we're dealing with. And the accusation, the irony of an accusation to say that Donald Trump is guilty of colluding with a foreign power, when you look back at the etymology of the Clinton crime cabal, as it is, patent still pending, if you look back at it, they have been in bed with the Chinese government, the communist Chinese, the last remaining let it be known, the last remaining communist superpower on the face of the planet, in bed with the communists. Bill and Hillary Clinton have been, we know figuratively, if not literally, they have been busily selling us off to the Chinese since the early 1990s. And they did that in the form of most favored nation trade status with the Chinese, which Bill Clinton made one of his top priorities in the first year of his presidency, then rolled them into the World Trade Organization without a whimper in 1994, despite that country having the worst human relations record in the history of the planet. Not just in recent memory, but in all of history. The Chinese regime is complicit in the killing of at least 110 million, possibly 160 million of its own citizens since Mao Zedong's rise in the Cultural Revolution back in the late 1940s. That is the death toll, and it holds the record for being the deadliest regime on the planet. Bill and Hillary Clinton have, throughout their career, through Charlie Tree and some very slick donor bundling, they have allowed Chinese influence. We're seeing it crop up in the social media realm as well with the institution of things like reputation scores and the collaboration of Google and Facebook with the Chinese regime. The elites And the establishment mainstream in America are in bed and complicit with the Chinese to subvert not only the American economy, but I believe they have engineered and they have plans for an American military downfall as well. And that's what Donald Trump is standing in the way of. And that's why they're accusing him of colluding with the Russians, because they need to distract from the fact that they are dirty as sin, my friend, with collaborating with the Chinese for the undermining and the ultimate death of the American Republic.
Yeah, very well said. And then when you consider that Bill and Hillary were kind of the masterminds behind all of that, along with the deep, deep state of the United States, Congress and judges and power movers and power brokers and millionaires and billionaires. But then along comes Barack Obama for 8 years, and who's his Secretary of State? Hillary Clinton. So now it's the Clinton/Obama machine, and some would say the Bush/Clinton/Obama machine. Now it's in office, and then they're connected not only at the hip with China, as you so brilliantly outlined, but then they're connected at the hip with Russia. And let's not forget Arab Spring, and let's not forget Fusion 1, and let's not
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, we could go on and on. Let's not forget Benghazi, and let's not forget the prolific what am I looking for? Intel spying on and obfuscating government processes that just came to an explosion during the Obama regime, and the corruption of Congress, the corruption of the courts, the corruption of the Supreme Court. And so along comes Hillary Clinton. Now it's time for her coronation, and the whole deep state just knew she would have it. They thought they had pulled all of their little levers and pushed all of their buttons, but they forgot the hand of God. Donald Trump pulls ahead and wins, and now they are out of their minds. And that's what Mueller's about. That's what Manafort's about. That's what the fake news, that's what the conflation's about. Am I anywhere near the truth? We've got 1 minute, and then we're going
between the two of us, I believe, Carl Gallups, we have licked the platter clean, as the old nursery rhyme says. This is, and you've just outlined it brilliantly. This is the plan. It was the plan. And they needed an insurance policy. That just one little thing that was missing from the entirety of the scenario, and that was the Hillary Clinton victory.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. As remember, Hillary Clinton said it so profanely and so in her ever so classless way. When she was yelling at Donna Brazile and then sent her the email that has now been heard around the world. I have to edit it for your listeners, of course. Hillary Clinton says, "You better fix this blank." Because if that blank gets into office, referring to Donald Trump, we are all going to swing from nooses.
Yeah.
And I would say that Hillary Clinton knew full well what the consequences could be.
Yep.
If Donald Trump was elected. She tried to warn about it.
Brother, we dodged that bullet. Listen.
That's right. We dodged the bullet.
The music's going, brother. Shad, the music's going. I know you can't hear it. We've got to take a time out. We'll be back in just a second. Folks, we did dodge a bullet. And there are more bullets to dodge. That's why Shad and I are trying to unpack this for you. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Buckle up. The ride ain't over yet. Welcome back to Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups, the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio.
Yeah, welcome back. It's good to have you back. 1330 WEBY and 99.1 FM on your radio dial, simulcasting right here on the Gulf Coast. And we reach portions of 4 states on the Gulf Coast just by radio. But, of course, we stream live over the Internet and over your smartphone. And we podcast Freedom Friday. Tomorrow, go to carlgallups.com. Click on the link that says Freedom Friday Radio. You'll see it right there on my picture. Boom, and you'll have it. Let's go right back to the air because my good friend Shad Olson is with us. So, Shad, we brushed all up against it, but I want you to wrap it up before we go to the top of the second hour. And then you and I will come back at the top of the second hour, and we're just going to keep going. So many things to talk about. But why don't you explain what happens when people read these articles about Manafort copping a plea deal today or yesterday? I don't know. They're reporting it everywhere today. I don't know when it happened with Mueller, and the mainstream media, the fake news, is going apoplectic with joy and excitement because they're conflating and trying to make it sound like, well, this is the death knell for Trump. What does this have to do with Trump? I mean, directly, and Russian collusion. You unpack it from there.
Well, Carl, it has absolutely nothing to do with Donald Trump. Paul Manafort, for all his brilliance and his skill as a political operative, and I mentioned his etymology as a K Street professional. He's somebody who's worked as a lobbyist. He's one of the most highly compensated political mercenaries in the history of Washington, D.C. He's had amazing success working for mainstream establishment candidates throughout the years, and of course served as Donald Trump's campaign chairman and campaign director for a time in 2016. Replaced Corey Lewandowski in that position, as we'll remember, after the conclusion of the primary. But the thing to remember about all of this, the mainstream media is complicit, and they're walking hand in hand with the rest of the deep state and the alphabet intelligence agencies in the United States. They desperately want to convict Donald Trump of the only crime of which he's accused, and that is winning the presidency when it was supposed to be Hillary Clinton's coronation.
That's it.
That's the entirety of it.
That's the whole thing.
So all they're trying to do is paint the picture and give a very uneducated populace and a very propaganda-susceptible population the impression that Donald Trump is a bad guy, a bad person, a mistake for the nation, and they're not pushing, I've said this over and over, Carl, they're not pushing for impeachment. What they're pushing for is an actual nullification of the 2016 election, so they get rid of Donald Trump and Mike Pence, and then say, you know what, this was all fraud, and so therefore the rightful winner, drumroll please, is Hillary Rodham Clinton. That is the ultimate. If they can get it, that's the ultimate destination. I don't know if they can push it that far. Even if they could impeach Donald Trump, I don't think they're going to get their greatest fantastic wishes. But this is the plan. And so what we're looking at is a propaganda case against the presidency of Donald J. Trump, the last gasp for the republic, this amazing economic resurgence, all of the damage and the havoc that's being wreaked against the Chinese economy. And we can talk about that next hour. I can break down some of the detail about what's happening as a result of the Donald Trump tariffs in the international world of trade. I would love to talk about some of those details coming up next hour. But realize Donald Trump has engineered almost single-handedly a resurgence and a renaissance of the American economy that we thought was beyond our wildest dreams. And the punishment for that is to be tried and convicted in the court of public opinion by a complicit, propagandized media that he is somehow a bad dude, and they've made it all up based on this stupid conflationary case against Paul Manafort, who was keeping some of his money offshore, and they have on some kind of jot and tittle process case, both with the IRS and with the FBI, and they're going to cast dispersion and make it seem as if Donald Trump has done something wrong, so they can launch into some sort of impeachment process should the Democrats gain control of the House in 2018. That's as simply as I can put it, and that's about as concise as I think you'll find anywhere.
I think so. And listen, here is what unnerves me a bit, my friend, my brother, is that I don't know what's going to happen in 2018 with the midterms. I know that they have their sights laser focused on 2020 because that's when they want to dethrone Donald Trump, if at all possible, if they can't do it, if they can't take him out before then. Because, as you said, either this republic is on its last dying gasp, even with the good things that are going on, or it will continue ahead maybe for another few generations for our children and grandchildren with some kind of greatness and semblance of sanity. But we're just a few years away from finding out exactly where this is going. And, of course, behind it all will be the hand of God. But the point is, even with a guy like Donald Trump, and let's face it, with all of his frailties and all of his weaknesses, he is the kind of president that you and I, for decades before, opined continually that, oh, if we just had a guy that would tell it like it was, oh, if we just had a guy that would, and now we've got him. And so much of America just thinks, oh, well, now we can go back, mow the grass, pay the bills, everything's going to be lovely. And it probably will not be.
Two things quickly. He's the most populist president since Calvin Coolidge. That's a history lesson for some of the listeners out there. And he's the most rapidly popular conservative president since Ronald Reagan.
Yep.
And a little closer in our lifetime. Those two things are true. The other thing, Democrats can't afford to wait till 2020. Numbers show, and the polling, I would stake my life on the polling that I understand and know. Donald Trump is undefeatable in 2020, regardless of opponent.
I hope so. I've got something to say about that. Yes, on the side of the next hour. Folks, we got to take a quick break. You hang in here with us, just 4 or 5 minutes. We'll be right back. More with Shad Olson, Carl Gallups, Freedom Friday.
American Survival Wholesale is proud to sponsor this ministry and their efforts to shed light on the issues that face our nation. As a veteran and Christian-owned and operated company, we support the freedom to express these Christian principles. We all understand the importance of being prepared. After witnessing the devastation of Hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and the wildfires that affected so many, please support this ministry by clicking on the link below and check out the amazing alt media package for our listeners. Plus, if you use the promo code PNN Radio, that's PNN Radio, you will receive free shipping, a savings of up to $200. Just click on the link below, but please do it today. Your support means so much to this channel.